Burglaries in the borough. Friday night, April the 20th, marked the final night of Black. Hello, this is just a quick video, really just a test of the streaming to see how it goes and that, and it's basically an Adobe Audition video, just to show you very quickly the benefits of setting up your own template for things that you do regularly, how it will improve your workflow on a day-to-day basis if you do that. More than anything though, just a test to see how the streaming goes. So if you are watching, let me know in the comments how the streaming goes, and be interesting to see what you think of it. Hopefully the video will be of some help for you, so I do hope you enjoy the video. If you are here very first time, indeed you probably would be, because this is the first live stream ever. Basically what I've done is every day I record a news item, a news bulletin, which goes out on the following day, and every day this is recorded. You can see here there's the raw waveform of the video. This is just the audio, so if you just listen to the audio now, this is all there is in the audio. This is it. So we're in Adobe Audition, and this is the audio. Backward distraction burglaries in the borough. Friday night, April the 20th, marked the final night of the 2-week covert audio. That is recorded raw in the microphone, straight into the Scarlett 2i2, straight into Adobe Audition. It does not pass through a microphone processor. So if you have a DBX 286S or something like that, then you probably won't need to do a lot of what happens in the template. But even still, the template will help you, because a little bit of polish in post-production always goes down well. Now, the reason for this video is to show you I have many templates set up for the many different things that I do in Adobe Audition in producing either audio or podcasts or speech, like this news item, for example. This news item will end up mixed with a bed, and then it will go out on radio the next day. So in order to do this, we go into the multi-track. We've already recorded, we've saved our WAV file, and that's all edited, trimmed up and ready to go. So all we need to do now is put it together in the multi-track. So we click the multi-track, we pick the template that we want, which is the news template. Doesn't really matter about the template name for this, because we're not going to be saving the session file at all. And you can see straight away, in comes the local news bed as well. So that is on track 2. Track 1 is where the voice goes. Track 2 is where the music goes. And if you look very carefully, track 2 is set here. That is where the music goes. There's no processing on this because it's news. You could set this up with either side chaining through Dynamics processing, or you could set it up in the Essential Sound panel to auto duck. But because it's news, we don't want the music bed flitting up and down in between every short sentence break. So if you're reading the news and you take a break at the end of the sentence, you don't want the bed popping up and down in the middle of it, because it's news. If you're doing a promo, or if you're doing imaging or something like that, then yeah, sidechain compression is the thing, or essential sound ducking is the thing, because then yeah, you want that music bed to be as loud as possible, and where you're not speaking, let it kick back in quickly and then drop it down again when you're speaking. Because it's news, it's all about being natural, and therefore the music bed, as you can see for the news, the music bed here, if we just zoom in, you can see the music bed ducks to where the bulletin will go, and then you just put the bulletin in. So it's that simple. Literally all we have to do is drag the bulletin onto track 1, line it up with where it should start in the music. To do that, we'll zoom in a little bit too far. We have zoomed in, but that's okay. We can just zoom back again, and there it is. That's it in, and you can see there that the music bed is going to duck, and we can do the news over the music bed. There is quite a bit of processing on track 1 here of Adobe Audition. There is quite a bit of processing that you can see. That's because this is not put through a DBX 286S. So there's no processing at the time of recording. The processing takes place in Adobe Audition, which is a little bit more CPU intensive, but if you've got a decent CPU, that doesn't matter. Just very briefly, the Dynamics processing, what that is doing is putting in place, as you can see here, an expander. So anything that's noise, maybe a little bit breath or anything, if it's breathy, it will just get slightly downward compressed, and that should be okay. The de-esser, just to get rid of any just in case there's any of that. Scientific filter will roll off the low end of the voice, because let's be honest, there's nothing that the human voice can actually pick up underneath, or the human ear can pick up in the human voice underneath that 70 hertz anyway, so you may as well roll it off. Adaptive noise reduction, just in case there's a little bit of noise in the studio as we're recording. Dynamics processing, very, very soft. Again, just a slight noise gate down at the bottom, and you can see just a tiny bit of compression. Because it's news, we don't want it heavily compressed. It's not going to be radio imaging or anything like that. This is news, so we want it to be as natural as possible. We move on from there to the speech volume leveler, which is the next one in the rack. Speech volume leveler, again, leaves quite a bit of dynamic range, 50% of dynamic range. The leveling amount is only low at 25%, and we're looking for a target of -12 decibels. So again, trying to keep it as natural as possible. If you were doing something that wasn't news, for example, if you were doing a promo and, hello, this is Mark Denham, listen to me in the morning, then yeah, maybe you would up that leveling amount a little bit. Maybe you would change the dynamic range as well, so you don't need it quite as much. But with this being news, it's all about the natural flow and delivery of the news. So that's probably a good setting, certainly for my voice and my studio. The hard limiter is off. We don't need that at this point in time. Parametric equalizer, because it's not going through a DBX286S or any other processing before it hits Adobe Audition. Just a tiny little bit of EQ. There's a tiny fraction of roll off further in the bass there. You can see there is some addition a little bit here at the 100 hertz. I'm just pointing at my screen, you can't see that. The 100 hertz, there is just a tiny little bit, and then up at the top end we've added just a little bit of sparkle, an extra 10 decibel of high end, which gives it just a little bit of sparkle, and I can play you the difference here. This is it raw. The areas. Throughout the 2 weeks, 21 stop searches, and then if we go into the multi-track session, you'll see just the difference that makes. We'll try and find the same bit. If we mute out the bed here. Or distraction burglaries in the borough. Friday night, April the 20th, marked the final night of a 2-week covert operation. A little bit of extra sparkle there, added by that parametric equalizer. Those two at the bottom, they're from a different template altogether, which is why they're slightly separate and they're not on. They are from a different template from which this one was created. And the multi-band compression, just very light here. Very light multi-band compression, because as I say, it is news. Now what you've got here is you've got everything ready, except for the fact that this template was set up obviously with a shorter bulletin. So because it's a template though, everything you need is already there. All you have to do is just drag this along, drag it down a track, and then you just drag that along, and then all you're basically doing here is just lining up the end of the music so it matches with the end of the news bulletin. So you can see there it fades up anyway in the news bulletin. If we now find the matching bit, you can hear this comes in. If we solo that one, sorry, rather than mute it, you can hear that this comes in here. So let's just play this. That comes in there, and then if we just solo this, all we need to do now is find the nearest matching bit. So if we listen, there you are, there it is. All we need to do now, line this up perfectly. To do that, we will expand the waveform, line it up perfectly. That'll do fine. Just chop that, Control and K, Command and K if you're on a Mac, Shift, click that back up. There you go, crossfade taken care of automatically in Adobe Audition, and then you'll just need to line it up at the 101.6. And then if we just move that along so the fade comes up just at the end, you will find that we have the perfect end to the news bulletin like this. XFM Newsroom, you're up to date. And that's it. Now, had I had to set all of that up each time, then that would have been a much longer process. It really would have been. This is probably the simplest template that I have, because as I say, news is about sounding as natural as possible. News, you do not want to be overly processed. You don't want like no dynamic range and an incredibly flat waveform in there. Definitely you don't want that. So that is basically your news bulletin done. You can now mix down the entire session. It'll take a little while to mix down because of the effects that are in that track 1, all of those. As I say, if you do have a DBX286S, then you probably won't need most of those effects because you can noise gate, you can compress, you can add top and bottom end, add or subtract if you want in the DBX286S if you are using a microphone processor. A lot of that work won't be done, but the real benefit of this template to me is the fact that I'm not using a pre-processor. So all of the audio is just coming in raw on the Scarlett 2i2 straight into the PC, therefore no processing, no EQ and nothing at all, and that's it. That is the news bulletin all done. You can see there it is pretty uniform, but there is, if we zoom in, there is quite a bit of dynamic range left in there once we zoom in. All it is just that target volume level of the speech volume leveler just kind of levels it off at a unique, at a constant peak, so there is a lot of dynamic range in there. It's not overly hard or anything, and you can just hear the final version.
20th marked the final night of a 2-week covert operation in Slough. Response officers, detectives, police dogs, road policing and firearms officers took part in the operation, which was launched following 7 distraction burglaries in the Slough, Wexham and Langley areas.
That is the benefit of the template. It's all there for you, so hopefully this has been of some help to you. Hopefully it's been of some help to me as well in experiencing the live streaming and seeing whether this is something that could or could not work. I hope you've enjoyed it. And I hope it has been of some help to you. And never ever be afraid to try and experiment, set up your own template in Adobe Audition. It's not even that hard to do. Maybe in a future video I'll show you how to do it. Thank you for your company today. I hope you've enjoyed this. Don't forget to subscribe. If you haven't already, you can subscribe, and maybe there'll be more of these in the future.